What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Stargirl finale video. Now, I never expected Stargirl to have one of the greatest season finales I have ever seen. And well, they nailed it. Not only just the culmination of storylines, but they managed to set up next season in a nice Easter egg and even post-credit way that really only Marvel movies have ever really been able to do. The CW, or at least the Arrowverse, has had a history of having pretty naff and muted season finales in my opinion, but here, this absolutely nailed it. So the episode starts as Isaac Jr. uses his tuba to lay the smackdown on a bully, which is what we expected to happen last week. We discussed this in my video on the first part of this finale, and this is actually what his mother told him to do, as his dad actually used the violin or the fiddle that he had to beat up bullies like his mother said. Well, like father, like son, eh? Very early origins for the future fiddler, as this character, Isaac Bowen, was actually the original fiddler in the comics, much like we mentioned last week, which was pretty cool. To be honest, Tuba Turd was actually pretty funny, and well, he doesn't know that his mother's dead yet. And it's interesting that we never actually saw him deal with that, and we also never saw Isaac's son actually kind of for like 4 episodes. It's really weird, but I will discuss that at the end of the video. The football pitch opens and a massive satellite comes out, which is some next level X-Men stuff, or Thunderbirds, and the CGI on this is so very, very good. I wonder what the budget for this episode actually is, because it even surpassed last week's episode, which had some really, really cool CGI. However, the teachers have actually been taken over, and in the entirety of Blue Valley have also been put under the spell of Brainwave's machine. The kids are pretty much left to fend for themselves, and reminds me of that episode of South Park where the kids rule, except they're not saying that their parents actually beat them up. Icicle is just chilling, sorry, that wasn't meant to be a pun, and he walks past a poster for a movie called The Unknown Soldier, who debuted in a Sergeant Rock story, but the poster of the movie is more like the second Unknown Soldier by Garth Ennis. As of New 52, he was revived as being a soldier in Afghanistan and even started to lead the Suicide Squad. Pat is right where we left him, under the control of Brainwave, as, well, poor old Courtney has to avoid Stripe's punches, and Barbara is also under control as the gambler explains the plan and how that 1 in 4 people can actually die from a result of kind of fighting against Brainwave, which is incredibly dark as Pat tries to fight against the programming. The ISA actually have Brainwave blocking earpieces, but they need to get their hands on one of them, and Midnight decides to go after one, but they actually decide to go after the money, which would allow them to hack in and kind of allow the adults in the tunnels to not be under the control. I find this bit kind of rushed. The whole going after the frequency blockers, then stealing the gambler's money, kind of really was just a side piece, as this is pretty much an action-packed episode, which I appreciate because we got some really, really good action, and Pat is now free, and so is Justin, which is a bit convenient considering the big deal they made about adults actually dying from the resistance of trying to fight against the programming. Now, by the time Justin was freed, I can't help but feel that this was a bit of a muted episode for a season finale. The first kind of 10-15 minutes kind of really flew by, and it was just a continuation of last week's, and I can't help but think that the first scenes of them in a tunnel could have just been added onto last week's episode. Finally, it's time for the full ISA to face off against the JSA, the new class, but Owlman wants to kill Solomon Grundy. Well, part of me would love to see Solomon Grundy chasing the team in the tunnels like some sort of horror movie. They kind of missed a beat with that, to be honest. But anything is better than the Gotham version of Grundy. The shot of the JSA going against the ISA was absolutely superb. That just looked so very, very cool, and I can't help but think that the Batman of this show and this Earth would look really, really good, and I would love it if the JLA actually crossed over with the JSA, but we know how WB are so protective over the Dark Knight, and it's very unlikely to actually happen. Dragon King is skewered by his daughter using a hidden blade, which is very poetic there, and it's unclear which side she is yet to actually go with, as both where the sides kind of let her down somewhat. The stunts in the scene were also next level, with audible wows coming from myself at Stargirl laying the smackdown. I did find it weird how the ISA was so easily dispatched. It's a bit weird considering that this was basically a reshot of the first episode when the original JSA were all defeated. But this was all done just for the money shot of Solomon Grundy appearing and a Stripe versus Grundy death battle. Wildcat leaves Stargirl to go and fight Dragon King's daughter, but she comes face to face with the COD zombies, and wow, Henry Jr. is alive! We were right! But no, not really, because he is actually an illusion of Brainwave, his father, and Wildcat sees right through this and rips through his throat in a surprisingly gory scene. My only criticism is that the JSA haven't really struggled to fight the ISA, minus Stripe, who was getting ripped apart by Solomon Grundy, who finally actually looks menacing, but our man returns to knock him the F out. I've got to say, this is the best live-action Grundy, if you can call it that with CGI, that we've seen inside a TV show. Wildcat's debate over killing or not, if it was because she knew it was wrong, but she did it anyway, and it was handled with a bit of gravitas, and this shows the talent of the actresses in this scene, because it's shown with their faces and not a script, which is just really, really good. It's always a big thing with people being livid over Superman killing Zod or Batman murdering people, but it's quickly moved on as the satellite dish is destroyed halfway through the episode, which is crazy. And like I said, I can't help but feel that this stuff should have maybe been added last episode, because I get why they can't, because while it's streaming, it's on the CW, so they can't have a longer episode. But that's a real shame and shows the kind of struggles that they're going to have next season dealing with being on broadcast only. But Icicle comes in and destroys Midnight's glasses, and Rick looks like $1,000,000 fighting Grundy, and the acting is just superb. Icicle shows Barbara that he just wanted to help people, and he's turning into some sort of a Thanos by wanting to wipe out 500,000 lives just so he can change people's minds to believe in leftist ideals. He's a nuanced villain with trauma about his dead wife, showing this through with great characterization. I feel like this should have been shown a bit more throughout the entire show, and I do question why the whole team got behind his vision when they're all absolutely nuts and evil. Pat comes to save his wife as Stargirl comes in clutch with the assist, and the theme of killing returns. Rick is actually a hero. This says a lot, but the show is not a cookie cutter show, and he's higher in quality to other CW shows, and I do worry for this as Mike runs over Icicle. And while I said this was a great finale, there are some criticisms with the ISA being taken down far, far too easily, even by Mike, who is just a bit of a joke character or a cheesy early Robin. Beth also has her own Spider-Man moment and realised that if she needs the goggles to be Midnight, then she's not ready. Former Seven Soldier teammates have a pep talk with Justin and Pat talk about this, and I never realised this before, but his white steed actually appears on his hat. A big F for me there for not realising that earlier. And Justin decides to leave town to go and get the Seven Soldiers of Victory. And let's not forget that Green Arrow was actually one of them, which was really, really interesting. I've got a video of that on my channel as well. So that's the first setup for Season 2. And an earthquake is actually used as a cover-up for what happened in Blue Valley, as someone appears within the HQ of the ISA, and it's the only member really of the ISA we haven't truly seen yet. Yes, it is the Shade. The Shade will be the Season 2 villain, and was someone who could manipulate shadows with his cane, and even actually came together with the Fiddler and the Thinker to cause trouble for Jay Garrick's Earth 2 Keystone City, causing a blackout, and were only stopped when Barry Allen could return and stop the dimensional rift there. As Stargirl is coming to CW post-Crisis, it would be cool if we got some of these classic stories. Dragon King's daughter is looking through what appears to be a magic shop warehouse and finds Eclipso trapped in a jewel which is known as the Heart of Darkness. This diamond was found on Apocalypse and became tethered to a demonic spirit of vengeance called Eclipso. He was imprisoned in the diamond, which was used by Darkseid to quell rebellion. He was also someone who held the title Spirit of Vengeance, much like Oliver Queen did during Crisis on Infinite Earths. But while Oliver Queen was the Spectre, Eclipso was the Vengeance before the Spectre, but he got demoted, and I will be doing a separate video on the Shade and Eclipso later this week. Now after this, it's Christmas once more as we go full circle as Pat is finally accepted as Courtney's father, a touching end to a great arc as she gives him a world's greatest dad mug. She had the perfect dad right in front of her, and we see some great scenes of Stargirl landing on the water tower of Blue Valley with a rebuilt Stripe landing on it too. But we get a post-credits scene in North Hollywood after the Dugans have fully settled in Blue Valley. We think it's Courtney's dad, but it was none other than Starman. Oh man, I wish I'd actually filmed my reaction to this. So Starman is back and my prayer circle worked as we get more Joel McHale. He's looking for Pat, which is pretty cool, and you have to wonder where he was. And this is some major setup for next season. So we have Isaac Jr., Icicle's son, Dragon's King daughter Eclipso, and the Shadow, who will now probably unite to fight the JSA next season, but we might see more people of the Seven Soldiers of Victory, and we will also see Joel McHale return as Starman. So that's really, really cool, and this truly was a great season with heart, story, and characterization, but I think this may be the best DC show in a long time, trouncing Titans, which I adore, but I know many of you don't. I much preferred this to Doom Patrol, which to me was a bit of a letdown. However, let me know what you think in the comments of this. Did you enjoy the finale? And what videos do you want me to make on Season 2, as we've got some big setup. So that's it for this video. Please drop a like down below. Please do subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.